Hello and welcome to this live broadcast here on Money Control. I'm Stacy Pereira, and today we're here to be discussing something quite interesting. But we just had Children's Day that was around the corner, and that really got us thinking as to what and when is the right time to be inculcating some kind of financial values for children. How important is it to have them at least know what money management is all about? When should we start? How far can we take it? What are the kind of tools that parents could use to inculcate these financial values into kids? We're going to be discussing all of that, and joining me to do that is Harsh Roongta as well as Sanchita Mukherjee. Thank you both of y'all for joining us on this special broadcast. Now, it is quite interesting, this topic, because of course it is personal finance, and at the end of the day, it is on each individual and how they want to really go about these subjects. But something as simple as when should we start with our kids? Like, how early on should we be telling them, and what are the kind of early principles that we should be teaching them? Of course, it starts with that basic, at least for me, it was done so, where you start with a piggy bank, and that's how we initiate that process. But now there are so many more tools that are out there. So I'll come to each one of you, and maybe you all can give me first up your experiences and how how would you suggest other parents go about a topic like this? So maybe I'll go to Sanchita first, because she's a mother as well, and so what are the tools that she could think would help other parents when it comes to financial planning as well as management, and how you bring that to children?
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, being a mother, I can give you a real live example. Uh, I think for the ease of understanding of all our audience, I've broken up this entire process into three stages, which I thought was very relevant. One is, as you mentioned, rightfully mentioned, it starts off with the piggy bank. So, point number one, that's dealing with the currency, the hard cash, right? So, managing the currency. The second stage would be managing savings or understanding the concept of savings. And the third stage for a child would be the concept of investments. Now, all of these three stages are very, very different. Currency is very different from saving. Saving is very different from investments. And investments, of course, is very different from speculation, which I think even adults today find it very difficult to differentiate, but it is. So, for a child, for a very young child, to start off to begin with, handling currency, getting very basic life skills in order in terms of going to a kirana store, learning to buy, and then just about handling all of the currency and paying up and everything. Opening a savings bank account under guardianship with a parent would be the second aspect, which is savings. That is, you get your pocket money, you save a bit, these are your expenses, the rest is a surplus. You begin to understand that the surplus can be put and deposited in a savings bank account. You earn an interest on that. You can make an FD with your birthday monies, all of that. And the third stage would be investments, which I think is a very, very important aspect, especially in high school, for parents to sit down with each and every children in India, understand what is their higher educational ambitions, what they intend to do, what mutual funds can do, what are the various different investment avenues, Sukanya Samriddhi, Provident Fund, PPF, all of that, and have dinner table discussions in terms of what are hardcore investments and how to go about them. I think this is something that I've always found very useful.
Right. So nicely breaking that up there, and how we can really go about it. Mr. Rungta, I didn't mean to be have any bias when I said let me go to the mother first, because of course a lot of our banking and all of that I did learn from my father as well. So I'd like you to come in here and say what are the kind of tools that we can use, because in today's day and age, when we have e-wallets and others in on for pretty much every child that is open and has a tab or a phone at a very early age, are there these can these be used as tools to also teach them this bit of financial planning then?
So I think the biggest tool is openness and transparency, and I think uh, I think in Indian households definitely, and maybe probably across the world, apart from sex, money is the other taboo subject. It is as if we want to not even talk about money with our
Right.
children, and it comes up very often. It comes up with children are very young, they're very perceptive. So a child will come home and say, oh, that birthday party, I got a return gift which was a scooter. Why can't we give a
Mm.
similar return gift on my birthday?
Right.
Okay. Or why did they celebrate it with a vada pav instead of a proper meal? So they are exposed, okay, to all kinds of money related issues without understanding what the issue is. And you can take many examples. I mean, you might tell a child that no, we cannot afford this, we will not be buying this, and at the same time the child sees you donating money or giving
Mm.
money to a particular, so he cannot understand how can we have money to donate and not be able to afford to buy something. And my you know what shall you say, my advice to my clients is, do these are opportunities, do not shush the child. These are opportunities where, depending on the child's age, you use this as an opportunity to talk about money. And I think that is
Right.
important. What Sanchita has said is also very important, but not shying away from money is important. Another tool is that you must practice what you preach,
Mm.
because you cannot tell your child to eat healthy if you yourself are eating junk food all the time.
True.
Similarly, to expect the child to have a saving habit, to have an investing habit, what is your own habit? Do you yourself have a budget? Do you yourself delay gratification? Do you yourself invest? And a child goes by what you do, not by what you say. So I think these two things, being open, transparent with your child, age appropriate, obviously.
Right.
Okay. And second, having the habits that you would want your child to have yourself. Okay.
Correct.
I think these two are very important tools in the parent's armory for to make sure that the child's relationship with money is better than probably their own relationship.
Right. Then let's break this down further and say, suppose I'm a new parent and I want to bring make my child more aware. I start with a pocket money. So from something as simple as a pocket money, how much of that can be allocated for different different criterias that you want to keep to, and is that how much is too much, and how do you make that difference when it comes to even a small amount like that? Maybe Sanchita can give us with some examples.
Yes, I'm very happy that Sir brought out this facet of relationship with money. That is so important culturally, traditionally, in all of our Indian household, and it matters even geographically.
Hmm.
What each parent themselves have in terms of relationship with money, right? So, in previous generations, if you actually witness the conversations around money, there used to be a lot of what should I say, a lot of angst in trying to talk about money very freely in a joint
Hmm.
family setup, because then you'd be looked upon with distrust, or you'd be stereotyped as a very money minded person. So there's a lot of to and fro which is to happen. But having said that, now in nuclear families, like you said, India has gone leaps and beyond in terms of digitization. We have so many resources, so many products in the market. So a lot of new parents are well versed with the technicalities of, say, mutual funds,
Hmm.
PPF, FD, senior citizen rates, life insurance, health insurance. So more or less, people are getting, and the penetration, one can see that these markets are doing really well, and we have a good regulator who's overseeing that there are not these fraudulent workshop and things, and people are accredited to give the kind of education. So relationship with money for the parents is a must. And breaking it down to coming to your the very first step that you talk about, the pocket money, yes, it again comes down to the relationship with money, in terms of you make the child understand that this is your pocket money. This is all you can do with it in terms of expenses, having fun with it. This is how you can budget for short term goals, medium term goals, long term goals. This is what you can do with your birthday monies. This is how you can deposit the rest of it in a savings account, something that you're not immediately consuming in the next 6 months. You start making timelines. and goal lines, and
Hmm.
start having these conversations across dinner tables in terms of goals, objectives, timelines, what needs to be done, what can be done, what are the different avenues. So these kind of conversations would be an absolute paradigm shift once new parents start having these with young children, teenagers, and all of that.
Right. Like you were talking about, saving, and one immediately goes to the whole banking system. Now, how friendly is that for kids, and how soon should you be, trying to tell them about what really happens in a bank, the idea of saving and investments, how soon, or what should be the right timeline that parents, and what is the mode parents can take towards doing that, Mr. Rumta?
So I think the banking sector, especially if the parents have some kind of a relationship, I think the banking sector is more than happy to sort of extend that to the children. I would, do that at again. It needs to be age appropriate. So maybe uh, after the initial round of things have happened and there is an open environment. Okay, I think the process is very important. I'll just take the pocket money example that you gave, and I'll use my own personal example that when we set up pocket money for my daughter, right, and we would include certain expenditure in that. Based on that, she gave me an estimate of what it should be, and we put a markup on that and said, okay, for other expenditure so much, and this is your pocket money. What
Hmm.
we discovered was what was not included were, say, trips with her friends and what money that would cost. So I asked her
Right.
to estimate that and asked her to add that. And
Hmm.
when I did that, I could find that earlier she would pay for the taxi ride right back to home,
Hmm.
even though her friends got dropped off on the way. Moment it became part of her pocket money, right? Where, you know she started taking that money from her friends. She started sharing it
Yeah.
with her friends. So I think this process, this iterative process is important. Banking is a skill, and I don't think you need to put in too much money there. But I think in the today's electronic age, getting a savings bank account that they can operate on their own
Hmm.
is something that you definitely ought to do. Banks are there. I think minimum age, if I'm not mistaken, is about 12 or 13, and I don't think
Right.
before that you should expose them to,
Hmm.
without having the background. So it's very
Right.
important that money be an open subject. I
Hmm.
think even today in Indian households, it's taboo to talk about. I don't know how many parents, if they are having money problems, they will
Hmm.
share it with their child. And I can assure you that I have personal examples where when people
Right.
shared their issues, the money issues that they were having, children can be extremely perceptive and extremely supportive, provided you trust them and share your issues with them.
Right, right. Let's also, understand this one thing. We are around this festive season. We've seen a lot of kids get some bit of money, some bit of cash. What is the right way for parents, to be firstly telling their kids on how they can be using this money, and also what tools they can use for this? I was reading a couple of articles where, games like Monopoly or board games, Catan, and the others have become such important, like day-to-day life, where you can also teach kids. So are those a couple of tools that parents could actually use when it comes to, the kids having that money in hand, and also then using these day-to-day life board games, etc., to be actually learning the concepts of what we learn in finance? Such as would this be a good way to be equating these two?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And a great icebreaker when it comes to having conversations with money, which are so important. Board games, I mean, even traditionally, I think have been great in terms of educating younger children, children in middle school, and even in primary school, in terms of handling money, the concept of real estate, building, all of that. But taking off from there, in fact, to what Sir was saying right now, having open communications and not having anything under taboo is something that Indian parents, Indian households really need to consider. Because you know what he just said, that there's been a live example. I have seen these live examples my entire 2 decades of my career. I mean, a lot of investments and the education of investments happen very circumstantially to Indian families, in terms of a death in the family, or a stress in the family, which ideally should not be the case if you are to educate each and every one of your family members with at least a brief understanding of what's going on, what's happening. And these are conversations which should be had regularly. For example, I do remember, this is my personal example. When my father passed away, I was all of 19 years old, and it took me a while to understand what was his portfolio in terms of shares, whether he had any mutual funds, he had a real estate, where the life insurance is, where do I need to go to get redeem the life insurance, where do I
Right.
need to figure out the bills, all of that. And for a 19-year-old, it's very difficult, because in India there's no one common platform which gives you the entire holdings. You have to go through different, I mean, of course, like you said, right now technology is at a prime, and you have various apps. But then if your father's investments or your mother's investments are scattered across different brokers, different life insurance companies, how does one manage? So it's very important to have these conversations, to keep a ready list, to acquaint the child as well as the spouse that it's not
Right.
taboo to be having these conversations. What is a will? What are these different asset classes? All of that. These should be regular conversations one needs to have.
Right. I'm also going to take this a little further in terms of, we have kids when they go out on a holiday or a vacation. That has been a very contentious issue. In fact, we've got a couple of queries that came in from parents as well, saying that how does one curb that enthusiasm when they get into, when they're traveling, or of course, you've taken them there to see the world, to experience those things. But how do you manage the finances when it comes to that situation, Mr. Rumta?
So I'm sorry if I give a slightly non-traditional answer to that, and I think again it is communication and open
Right.
communication. So if your children, and especially as they grow older, are aware of how much income is coming in, how much expenditure is happening, what is being invested, why it is being invested, etc., and what is left for discretionary expenditure, I think that puts a you know it puts, and children can be very responsible. I think we just have to trust them enough. As parents, when we were growing up, our parents were protecting us, they were sheltering us ki nahi nahi bachcho, we don't have to tell our children the difficulties that are there. We want them to live a life without worry, but we, as an adult, I can't live a life without worry. So preparing them is important. You mentioned about expenditure, bulk expenditure, or
Hmm.
discretionary bulk expenditure, right? A foreign holiday, something that's out of your budget. Great thing is to turn it into a game. If you can't
Hmm.
afford it, first make sure they know why you can't afford it. What are you going to do? Turn it into an aspiration. Start investing
Yeah.
for that, and show the progress. And that is teaching your child about delayed gratification, about how to plan for the delayed gratification, and savoring the joys of delayed gratification. I think
Right.
all these three things can be done if you have good communication, you have good follow up on that communication, and then you actually go for that holiday or whatever. If the child wants to buy something that is actually bought, I think
Mm-hmm.
after a certain time, I think that is a great, great lesson that the child will never forget.
Right. Well, we did speak about how technology has really, enhanced this and made it so much simpler for parents to be telling their kids about it. But we're also, there is the other side to it, where our kids now becoming, really dependent on these apps, and getting really weak at math, because before, when we got that little bit change, we made sure we were giving back those many coins back to our parents. But there is also the other side to that. So how do you try to balance that out as a parent, especially when it comes to getting your kids, letting them have what they need, and also making them responsible or accountable for what is yet to come? So that balance, I guess, would be something quite difficult. So any advice that you both could give parents when they're trying to juggle this act?
Participation. What Mr. Rungta was just saying, I'll sum it up in one word.
Right.
Every point, it has to be participative. We cannot be in a position, it has to be teamwork. It's not that, I'm a mother, I'm a parent, and that is a child, and we're different. Like you just said, beautiful example of a vacation, right? So when you're in a vacation, again, I can give you live examples. Children in the vacation, they have downloaded, say, sharing apps, right? Where all the costs, expenditure of the entire trip and who's spending what is put in numbers. Very
Right.
simple, but amazing technology. And some children actually came up to me and told me that, we use this regularly with friends in groups of 10 and 5. If you're in a
Right.
restaurant, how does one share the bill? So you put it in the app splits it, that this person pays this much, this person has paid the flight tickets, this much has paid, gone to the hotel, who owes who what. It's all crystal clear, and they love it because that is something that they're very, very attuned to. They're wired to technology. So you have to play the game by their rules. You have to
Right.
make it interesting for them. Recently, I was party to this course which actually CBSE did for all high schoolers, in which they educated them on different investment asset classes for high school students, and I was very pleasantly surprised. It was a
Yeah.
proper presentation which was digital, and the children loved it. So, participation is very key, be it you're taking a metro, be it you're planning a holiday, be it you're planning your education goals. Make them participative in everything they do, and the ownership of these entire projects should be shared with them and not solely by the parents. Even if it
Right.
handles comes to handling foreign currency, forex cards, all of that. I know there are age limits, of course, when it comes to handling forex cards and all of that, but nothing stops you from making them more and more participative in every
Involved.
aspect of all of this.
Right. Mr. Rungta, any advice that you would want to give parents who, of course, I think it's becoming more and more imperative that parents, instill this kind of financial value into kids. So, any last takeaways that you would want to give that parents could really adapt to?
So, if I was to just summarize it, I think it would be that please do what you. I think Mahatma Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world," and I think something similar. I can't expect my child to have a great relationship with money unless my own relationship with money is good. And I think improving your own relationship with money is extremely important. As parents, like in other areas, I think today the pressure on parents to also impart good habits on financial matters is far higher than, say, what it was just probably a decade or two earlier. And
Right.
I, communication helps, setting aside time helps. So, for example, we always tell our clients that whenever you have family time together, set aside a pre-designated time about money. Uh, we tell our clients to have a spreadsheet or a Word document which is titled "What to Do If I Die." I mean, Sanchita ji mentioned about that experience, unfortunate personal experience that she had. I
Right.
think you need to prepare your family.
Yeah.
If you have been so you have to ratchet it up. You cannot one day start talking about what to do if I die. You have to have that openness uh, throughout. When you can sort of reach that time during family get-togethers where you exclusively pre-designated always this 1 hour, 2 hours, we will talk about money. It could also mean how do I expect to live, what are my money worries, what are my what do I feel good about money, where do I expect money to come from. All those things should be there. uh, so again, it boils down to communicate, communicate, communicate.
Right. So, okay, I guess what we can summarize this whole conversation saying that, it is about being open with your kids. It is about teaching them age appropriate as it may be, but getting those concepts and terms out to them so that it's not alien, and making sure that that communication channel is always open. I think that's what both our panelists were trying to give us, at least tell parents out there how they could be bringing in this some sense of a financial value to their kids, and they would concur with that. Let me thank both of you, Mr. Harsh Roongta as well as Sanchita Mukherjee, for joining us on this panel and hopefully enlightening our viewers on how they can be looking at it. A topic like we did speak about, which is often regarded as taboo, but now needs to be more and more table conversations with our kids. So hopefully this was insightful for everyone who was watching, and thanks so much to our guests who've joined in live.
Thank you.